So, yeah, look, we all know what day it is. We all know what happened. New books still have come out, and it's still my job to tell you what's come out. So, let's start this post-election day list of new comic books with FML, which should probably be renamed FAOL, as in fuck all our lives. This is a new creator-owned book by Kelly Sue DeConnick, by David Lopez, and it is a Riot Girl mom who has kids in Portland, and they find out that monsters are probably real, just like we're all finding out. Hey, look, Absolute Superman #1 by Jason Aaron and Rafa Sandoval. This is a new Superman coming to Earth now, and I assume finding out that truth and justice are lies and that the American way is fascism. Oh, here we go. This one is a new book written and drawn by Jamie McKelvey, and I assume it's entirely about American elections. Caitlin Yarsky has a new book that's also, well, yeah. Wow. Huh. Exit City? And look, there's a new issue of, okay, you know what? This week is way too on the nose. Yeah. But seriously, comics are here for you, and there's really good ones, including some of the ones I just callously throw on the floor. They don't belong on the floor. They belong in your hands and in our hearts. We are here for you today. We are here for you every day. And if you need it, Dow will give you a hug. But you have to ask.
Only today, only November 6th. This is not a long-term policy. This is a post-election day policy.
In the Midwest, you know the best is there waiting, so come and join the conversation. I still approved, fan and artist and creator too. This is how the challengers do. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. What? Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower.
Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
W. Dal Bush.
Dal Bush.
Dal Bush.
Dow.
Dal.
W. Dal Bush.
2 years ago, when we built this podcastatorium, we chose this specific neighborhood that it's in for purely economic reasons.
Budgetary reasons.
Yes, it was affordable to build it here, to break ground here.
Yes.
And in those 2 years, the drive to get here has only gotten worse. And some of that is construction in the city of Chicago.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is the mentality of the drivers in this neighborhood.
I don't know that it's the mentality of the drivers so much as your ability to weather the stress of drivers in the neighborhood. Like,
So
they haven't gotten worse in 2 years. You just can't deal with them.
So that's kind of my point. My point is, it gets me so angry
So many things.
for driving here, the way people drive
Yeah.
around here.
Yeah.
Just the completely reckless and,
I would have said asinine.
yeah, like, if you want to speed, fine. But when you're cutting people off, turning right from the middle lane, shooting across 4 lanes at one time, riding on the shoulder to get ahead, 1 car length ahead,
Yep.
that stuff is all just infuriating because it's a larger picture of
Selfishness.
it's a very entitled person, and nobody else's time is as important as theirs. And it's not as if you're Andrew Garfield and you have a pregnant Florence Pugh in your car.
Which, in that instance, anything Florence Pugh needs from you, you do. That's
Right.
that's my policy.
That's why I said it's not
as a
that.
person, whether it's fictional Florence Pugh or real Florence Pugh, whatever she needs, she gets.
So the bigger issue here is my inability to let that stuff go.
Yeah.
Like, I can't control that. I can't control other drivers.
You can control your reaction to it.
But I should control my reaction, yet it's still just infuriating.
Yeah. So without getting too psychological and delving into that too much, as I'm not a licensed professional, do you think a lot of that is just the overall stress levels of your life means that you're kind of always almost bubbling over a little bit? So things that, if your life as a whole were less stressful, the inconvenience or the frustration of other drivers being dangerous or selfish would be something where you would be momentarily annoyed at, but wouldn't carry with you longer.
My
I think of your
answer
tank as being very full.
We'll never know.
Right. But I think of mentally your tank being very full, and the little drops of, I can't believe that guy cut across 4 lanes of traffic, or I can't believe that person is stopping our traffic because they need to get into a lane they shouldn't be in, and now we all have to wait for them, is a thing that most motorists who maybe have lower stress levels for their lives would, lay on the horn or shout out the window or just crab about for a couple minutes. But then they'd get out of the car and they'd be like, well, that's just Chicago traffic.
It's the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, is what you're saying.
Yeah, kind of.
We used to know a guy who had a, let's say, 30-minute drive to work.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to joke that he'd always show up in a bad mood. And my joke was that he could get cut off backing out of his driveway and still be fuming about that when he got to work a half hour later.
Uh-huh.
Now, I don't think I'm that severe in regards to holding on to a specific incident. It's not like somebody cuts across 4 lanes of traffic and a half hour later, I'm like, that fucking guy, he cut off 4 lanes of traffic.
Right.
Like, I get mad in the instant.
Yeah, you're not chasing anyone down.
But there's so many of those instants that add up.
That's true.
Like, I will forever remember the guy who sideswiped me
mm-hmm.
on the way here.
Mm-hmm.
One
to the podcast-atorium.
Yeah, months back. Minimal damage to my car, but he sideswiped me and immediately took off.
Mm-hmm.
And to what you had just said, I did chase him, and he lost me.
I mean, that's a different thing. Like, I think if someone's done damage to your car or you've seen them commit a crime of some sort, like, going after them is maybe a reasonable thing.
I just wanted to get close enough to take a photo of their license plate, but
yeah, depending on what they've done.
While driving that fast, I couldn't even manage to try to get my camera out.
But I just mean, like, if someone cuts you off in traffic, or if you see somebody, if you're trying to get onto an on-ramp and they juke in front of you or something, you're not like, I'm going to follow that guy for the next 5 miles to tell him he was an asshole. Like, you're not going to do that.
They won't even realize that they've done it.
Right. I mean, I've joked before that every car horn in Chicago is followed by another car horn, because if you honk at someone, their response is, no, fuck you, and they lay on their horn, and it's like, you're not getting what's going on. This is not me expressing my disgust. This is me notifying you that you did something wrong. And the response to you did something wrong is not, you did something wrong. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, no, that's true. The immediate, like, somebody cuts you off, you honk, they honk back at you and flip you off.
Right.
Again, they deserve to be in that space and you don't.
Just selfish.
So being able to say, that happened, don't let it affect your day, is something I clearly need to work on.
I mean, I think everybody does. It's always easy as the outside party to be like, well, just let that stuff go, or you got to let it go, or you got to find some way to move on. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, I've had things happen where it's an interaction with a customer, or something happens at a grocery store, or something happens on the CTA, and I fume about it for hours. And it's like, what is that doing? How is that helping me? Like, that, even the person who did it to me
passing the time
is long gone.
Yeah.
Like, me getting angry about it is not showing them anything, and it's not making me feel any better, but it's still going to happen. I'm not going to pretend it's not.
We've got a handful of customers regular subscribers, who still need a significant amount of hand-holding to do the basic subscription maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same people regularly.
Mm-hmm.
And on the one hand, I acknowledge that we're lucky they want to shop with us,
sure,
and that they're even subscribers in the first place, mm-hmm. and that we should try to make their shopping experience as easy as possible.
Yeah, customer service is part of our job.
But when we're doing the same favors for the same people over and over,
Mhm.
I feel like they're taking advantage of us without even realizing they're doing it, but also they're never going to learn.
Yeah.
If you don't make them do it themselves, they're never going to learn. But how do you do that without being an asshole?
Yeah, I certainly for some people, they have made the decision that they are not going to work the process the way that you would want them to for your store. And yeah, I mean, you kind of have two options. You can either always do it for them and then make money, but also have to do extra work for that money. Or you can just say, I'm not doing that, and then they don't spend money at your store. Like those are the two options. For certain people, there is no way to change their behavior because they have told you either through repetition or literally telling you to your face that they are not going to do the thing that you want them to do. So you as a store owner have a decision to make at that point.
I'm trying to think of a good metaphor for this without using the exact example that came up today.
Mhm.
Whereas if you, oh man, I'm trying to do it in a car mechanic way.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of my own. Like, how would I do that? How would I phrase it?
Specifically, if I had said, if you want to borrow my car, and I'm like, sure, let me show you. Here's my car doesn't come with a jack, so this it's not literal to my car, but it has inside a tire inflation system. But anyway, if I were to say, all right, well, here's where I keep the jumper cables, here's where I keep the jack, and then you half hour later text me and say, I got a flat tire.
Yeah.
Like that, you're just saying, hey, I have a flat tire.
Yeah.
So you're expecting me to solve that for you when I've given you preemptively.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm just gonna go. I can't. This analogy is not working out right.
Let me give you mine. So let's say I go to the movie theater. I go to AMC and I get a bucket of popcorn. And
whoa. Other movie theater chains are available. They're not paying for that plug.
Yeah, but I go to AMC.
Yeah, but but other chains are available.
Let's say I go to AMC River East 21.
Let's say I go see We Live in Time on a Thursday afternoon.
1:30 in the afternoon, using my AMC A-list to not pay for the ticket. But let's say I go to the concession stand and I say I want a large soda and a large popcorn. And they hand me an empty large soda cup and a bucket of popcorn. And I say, okay, now I want the soda to be a Diet Coke and can you put butter on the popcorn? All of that stuff is available as a self-service thing on the floor and they expect you to do it. And I'm not incapable of doing it. I'm just like, yeah, but I don't want to. I'd rather you do it for me. And it's like, if someone at the counter is like, I'm not busy, I can do that for you. I will help you out.
Which FYI would never ever happen. But for the story.
If they do it one time, then I'm going to expect it forever because it's like, well, why can't you do it? You did it before. So if they do it, they have to understand that they're going to be doing it for me forever. For as long as I go to that theater.
But Patrick and Dal always let me see the lists of new comics before they come out.
Or they can tell me, no, I'm not doing that. And then it's like, maybe I don't come back there. Maybe I don't go to that theater anymore. Maybe I don't buy popcorn and soda because I know they're not going to do it for me like I want them to. So again, is it a reasonable expectation for me to have? No, but sometimes what a consumer thinks of as reasonable behavior, a store might think of as going above and beyond. And that's why a store might do it, because they're like, I want to give the best service possible. But what the person who's receiving it is thinking is, this is the bare minimum. So they don't even realize that you're going above and beyond. So the only thing that we really do in these situations, when we're making an exception and when we're doing something that is causing a bunch of extra work for us, for things that most of our other customers do not require, is basically saying, you are asking us to do work that most of our customers do not require. We will do it this time, but you need to understand that this is us making an exception now for you rather than something we are going to do all the time whenever you ask us to.
I don't think that they understand that it's an exception, even when explained. And I, right now, understand that we are each using specific examples that we're basing this on, and I just figured out what yours was. but I don't think you know what mine is.
I mean, I just made mine up. Mine wasn't based on. Oh, I know. No, I know what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Are we thinking of two different things?
Yeah.
Is that possible?
So
I thought we were thinking of the same thing that caused us a bunch of extra work, and we were thinking of two different things.
I know, right? What are the chances of that?
Oh my God.
There's only ever one thing that causes extra work.
Makes me real sad and tired now.
So basically, if we send out an email that says, hey, here's all the books coming out next week, here are 10 that we highlight with photos and descriptions, and then for someone to say, hey, I can't find that book on your website.
It looks like you're out of stock.
You literally just got an email earlier today that tells you it's coming out next week.
Are we out of stock? Technically we are, and that we have not received them for on-sale dates yet.
But people don't read emails.
No, they really don't. I mean, like, look, the fact that somebody even opened one of these emails to then get it wrong is like, great, thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, that is half the battle.
But it's that much more discouraging when you realize, like, this was a problem that was solved before it became a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It always, wow, this is tying in really great to the first half of this start of this podcast.
Maybe it's a half, you don't know.
It hurts me a little when the answer is there first.
Mm-hmm.
It's as basic as if you answer the phone saying, Challengers Comics, and somebody says, yeah, is this a comic book store?
So many times.
Or, like, is this Chicago Comics?
Is this the comic shop? This is a comic shop.
Well, no, it's the comic shop. I'm fine with that. But I mean, like, if they think you're somewhere else, you're an auto mechanic, whatever. Because people, they don't listen to the first part.
Nope.
And I get it. Like, the information we disperse may as well be puzzle pieces that people have to get and put together.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this kind of stuff a million times. You have to say, you have to promote a title, 100 times before someone's going to say, like, oh, right, I saw that one specific post you did about this book. And for example, this week, we both did new release videos. Yours was Tuesday, mine was Tuesday night, mine was Wednesday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And they both had
weirdly different tones, even though mine was Tuesday night and yours was Wednesday morning.
Right?
I wonder what happened.
They both had a little bit of a, hey, this week is about more than just comics.
Mm-hmm.
And while my video, which the audio of that was the start of this whole episode, in case people were wondering where that came from.
Oh.
Also, some of the visual gags don't work because they're visual and you can't see what I'm holding up on an audio podcast.
Theater of the mind,
Exactly right.
Could be holding
exactly
anything.
right.
An illuminated manuscript.
Specifically,
my baby photos. I don't know.
Caitlin Yarsky's "Living Hell" was not called out by title in the video because it was held up.
Mm.
And then I can't remember if I said "Cruel Universe" or not. But anyway, that video that I had done, which was done specifically to add a little bit of levity to any potential viewers' day.
Gallows humor.
To also, vent a little bit.
Sure. I think a lot of us needed to on Wednesday.
And while it is one of the most watched of those new release videos that we've done.
Congrats.
No, nobody's coming in to buy those books because of that video.
No, it's never how it works.
Right.
Like,
well, no, people came in and
No, I just mean in the sense of like high traction, like social media stuff.
Right.
Like whenever we've had something really break out and be viral in the limited sense of Challenger's social media success.
Yes.
It's never something where it's like, oh man, I got to buy a lot of copies of that book. It's mostly just people like saying, yes, I agree with your politics, or yes, that's a funny joke.
Yeah.
Or yes, I agree that is a wrestler,
I still don't think it was a wrestler. But either way, like lately I haven't been doing videos because I don't work Tuesday nights anymore. So I'm not there when the books go on the shelves.
And I do videos that are way too long on Tuesday nights, and you're like, there's nothing left for me. Which honestly, like when we would do them together on Tuesday nights and you would go first, sometimes yours would be like 5 or 6 minutes long and you'd cover like 15 books. And then you'd be like, are you going to do one? And I'm like, there's nothing left, man. Like, I'm not going to also tell people that like, yes, this week's Batman was really good. It's fine.
But I think that's valuable because I would say that most people don't watch them both. Sure. They watch whichever one comes up in their feed. And if one doesn't, they don't go looking for it.
Sure.
And also repetition.
No, you're right. And there's been plenty of times where I've felt like I had something to say about a book that you had something to say about, but my take on it was different or
Different enough.
something that I felt like I could come at it. But sometimes it's just like, I would just be saying that, yes, this is a new Ultimate series and here's who the creators are and you should give it a chance. Like, sometimes I don't have that feeling of like, I really want to rave about this comic book.
I think that when you break the videos down, which nobody should because they're not worth that much effort, but yours are a lot more informative and mine are dumber. But I mean, like, they're meant to be.
No, I get you. I think yours, you have a tendency to want to approach it in more of an entertainment thing, and mine is more, my job is telling you what's coming out, and so I'm going to do my job. Like if there's ever a skit or a premise or something, 99 times out of 100, it's you. Like, you generate that, and you're like, here's what I think we should do, or here's like you'll tell me, like, this is how I want you to do this, and I will just do that. Rather than, when I just do it by myself, it's like, I'm just going to talk about the comic books. And if there's like an idea that comes to mind or something that I feel like is relevant for what's going on, maybe I'll let that happen. But I mean, I approach doing the videos like I approach doing the podcast, where it's like, let me just sit down and knock this out. I don't,
let me just get it done.
I do not think about it beforehand, and I don't like thinking about it afterwards. So let's just, like, this is part of my job, and I'll do it. And I won't shirk it, and I won't half-ass it, but the moment I'm doing it is where I'm going to put the effort in, and that's it.
There have been plenty of times when we would both be in the store on a Tuesday night, and it's time for the videos, and I'd be like, wait a minute, I don't have a way in yet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what my hook is. I don't know what my...
Which scarf do I wear?
I don't know what my through line is going to be. And
what's my character arc?
Most of it doesn't matter, but it matters to me.
Right. And
I want there to be, not necessarily a theme. This week had a theme.
Yeah, of course.
And I feel like I could use that. Like, this week worked great for it, but I think if I tried...
Thank you, Kelly Sue, for releasing FML on the day after the election.
And Living Hell.
And Cruel Universe.
And Cruel Universe and Exit City.
There were just so many. Like, FML was where it started, because I think we both independently just had the joke in our heads of like, oh man, of course FML comes out like the day after the election.
Yeah.
But then you were the one who looked at the rest of the list and went, oh, here's all these other ones. And you can do a whole video on that now.
Yeah, I don't feel like I need to do video. Like, we get to the store early enough on Wednesdays where there's time for you to film me doing a video, but there's always orders to pack up. There's always something else.
Yeah, I think there's value to...
If I get a package from Ringside Collectibles on a Tuesday, I want to open it first thing on a Wednesday.
Of course.
To see what the custom Jay White looks like. In a Switchblade red jacket.
Is he really? That's pretty cool. I think there's value to doing the two videos on two different days and times. I think, like you were saying before about repetition, I think releasing two videos simultaneously, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, you could double your audience potentially by having them show up in different people's feeds or the algorithms or whatever. But I think doing one Tuesday night where it's more just like, let me show you the wall, let me talk about all the books, and then having a Wednesday morning kind of hype video where it's more like, here's a bunch of great books, and when you're coming in today, don't forget about these, that sort of stuff.
The only thing I don't like about that Wednesday morning aspect is the people that come in early, our Wednesday rush,
sure,
they don't get a chance to see that.
No, but I don't think they need it as much. Do you know what I mean? Like, A, they're already there, and B, they're already looking at the New This Week wall. So while you can pitch them on some additional stuff, they're usually the people who are the most generous with the ways they try out new books and more adventurous in the things they pick. So you don't really have to do as much. Like, the Wednesday morning video, I think, is good for people who are maybe on the fence about coming in to be like, oh, I should, this sounds really good and I don't want to miss it. Or the people who come in later in the day, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, who are like, oh, I want to remember to get that.
I wanted
specifically
to do
Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, because those are days you work, so a lot of those people have a rapport with you and trust your judgment in a way where if I'm doing it Tuesday night, it's only really going to be for people coming in Wednesday, and I work Wednesday, and hopefully they know me and trust my judgment.
I really wanted us to expand this, to do like Thursday, Molly and or Stella to do one so people can get their pick, so the Thursday people see that.
We tried.
And then to do later in the weekend to be like, hey, just in case you've missed, like, don't overlook these books from this week, and maybe not focus on the exact same things we did, but focus on something that, and I keep meaning to do, like, hey, this book came out a few weeks ago. Did you sleep on it? Is it still here? Like, do we have it? Obviously, I wouldn't talk about it if we didn't have it. But
one of the things, I love all the people that work for us. Anyone who's willing to donate their time to help challengers be better or just keep existing is a kindness. We're a small comic book shop. We are not flush with cash. And that means that anyone who's working for us is really doing it out of a love of the medium and an appreciation for what Challengers as a store means to the community. Those compliments being said, one of the continuous disappointments for me over the last 16 years is that while everyone who works at Challengers is younger than we are and more versed in social media and more conversant in the ways social media can reach out to people, we can never consistently get any of them to use any of those talents, skills, or fluency in helping our social media at all. Like, you will frequently over the years, every 16 to 18 months, be like, we got to do more videos with the girls, or we've got to get more people, posting about comic books or whatever. And it works for like 7 days. Like, they all grudgingly do it, and then you get busy and they never want to bring it up, and it's like twisting arms, and we get tired of having to twist arms because it's like, look, if you're not enthusiastic about this, if you can't get into this, like, it's going to come across in the video.
Yeah.
Luckily I'm able to hide my disdain for doing it, so no one listening to the podcast or watching the social media videos knows how much I loathe the process.
Until you point it out.
Wait, what?
Frequently.
What? But yeah, like, there are several women who work at Challengers that have let us know in no uncertain terms that they do not want to do the videos. The times that Molly has been working Tuesday nights recently because late deliveries show up and I need an extra person to help me get everything ready for Wednesday morning.
And he never wants that person to be me ever.
And I'll ask Molly to film something for social media. There's been a couple of times where she's had this kind of like worried tone where it's like, you don't need me to do it. Like, no, you can film me. I'll do it.
I need you to hold the camera and push record.
And then she's always like relieved. And it's like, I get it. You don't want to do this. It's fine. But like, the fact that every younger person who works at Challengers, who has been using social media for most of their adult lives, none of them ever want to do it at Challengers. Like, they don't want to film videos for Instagram. They don't want to post content. They don't want to do any of that stuff. And it's like, we need that so desperately.
Andrew had a lot of energy for TikTok in the beginning and would come up with like an idea like, oh, let's do a TikTok. Let's do this trend. Because I don't know what any of the themes are or the trends are. He's like, oh, let's do one based off of that. And we did like 2. And there was a period where Samantha wanted to do manga recommendation videos that she would film and edit on Canva. And she immediately did 2 of them right away.
Yep, everyone's great out of the gate.
And she's like, I got the format, I got the template, and I'm going to do more of these.
Yep.
And it was only ever those 2.
Yep.
And we can't make them do it if they don't want to do it.
Right.
But they're all
like, if you don't have a passion for it, or if you don't at least have an
enthusiasm
for it, then it's like, this is not going to work.
If I bothered to learn or even figured out how to edit any type of TikTok type of videos, we would probably do a lot more stupid things, as evidenced by our pandemic videos.
Patrick, that put you in the hospital. We can't do those videos anymore. You nearly lost a leg.
I'm reminded of it every second of every day. Yet we're still promoting those new Turtle comics like everything. But no, some of those were actually good.
Sure, I think they were fun. And it was a neat thing to do. And obviously we stopped them for 2 reasons. 1, we reopened. 2, Patrick almost died. But yeah, some of it I think just comes down to you and I are full-time employees, and everyone who works for us is a part-time employee. And as a full-time person, like, we are, also as the owners, we are far more invested emotionally and literally in our business. So things like that, where we think like maybe this will help our business, we're like, we got to try it, we got to do it, we got to keep doing it. The repetition is what's important. But yeah, I mean, when you're asking an employee to do something in any business, if it's not their skill set and if it's not their explicit job,
or their passion.
yeah, well, the passion thing is kind of almost irrelevant. Like, you can pay people enough to overcome passion, and we can't. So that's not happening. So yeah, again, God bless anybody who works for us, who's ever worked for us over the years, except for 2 people. But yeah, like, the inability to get anyone who's ever worked for us to reliably do any social media stuff has been baffling to me. Because again, like, I'm not thinking about it in terms of like, hey, learn to rebuild a carburetor. I'm thinking about it in terms of, you're on Instagram all the time.
Yeah.
Do that here.
Gina has gotten better at doing Friday posts of books that she's excited for.
That's
in her so she does it as stories, and I'll take that story and put it on our Instagram page as a story as well. Or she'll do it as whatever.
Sure.
I'll steal it when I can. And Stella used to post a lot about comics, but oftentimes it's not stealable.
Sure.
I mean, screen capping and doing it that way is one thing, but
Right.
I'd rather do it when we're tagged in a thing, so there's permission
Sure.
and whatnot. And every time we've found somebody from the outside to work on stuff, like when we had the 3 different Art Institute interns, Delia was great at doing all the Rogues Gallery stuff on Facebook. She did a lot of posts and got a lot of traction
Yeah,
for
like
those
trivia
shows.
contests and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It was really cool.
Yeah. But, that's kind of a dead platform now.
Right.
And then Kiki was great with Tumblr. But to this day, I cannot change the Tumblr settings she put in because I don't know how to do it.
Sure.
Because, we've changed our logo and
Sure.
the look of the Challenger costume and things like that. Like,
Yeah.
just those simple backgrounds. And also, the only Tumblr posting we do is when something cross-posts to Tumblr.
Oh, I see.
We haven't been on Tumblr in forever.
No.
And when I do try to figure it out, I mess things up.
Sure.
Then there was the middle one who didn't do any of those things.
Emma.
I know.
I just wanted to make it clear that we remembered who she was.
I did.
Yeah. She was good. I mean, she was a pair of hands,
Yeah. And everybody brought a different skill set to those specific Art Institute jobs.
Yep.
And they weren't only getting school credit.
Right.
So, yeah. There's that. But yeah, I don't know. I look at customer outreach, beyond the confines of ringing someone up when they're in the store. And it's something that we've always wanted to do. This podcast started out of that very premise of giving you more challengers in your life than when you're at the store.
Yeah, I'm not mad about this next part, but it would have always been a nice bonus to have anybody inside Challengers be like, hey, I got an idea for this outreach thing and I want to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, we would have never said no to it. We would have, I mean, obviously budgetarily, depending on how it works. But like, if anyone had an enthusiasm for it, we'd be like, great, run with it. Let's give it a shot.
I have a list of ideas in the back of my head of things that I've thought of that I've wanted us to do, and I've either vocalized them or taken the first step and never followed through.
Sure.
One, to show you how long ago this idea was, I had Lizzie and Maria walk a couple of blocks around the store and make a note of any service-based business that had a waiting room. Auto repair shop, doctor's office, dentist's office, insurance office, anywhere where there were chairs for people to kill time because we were going to drop off a bunch of donation comics in all those places.
Sure.
Like all with stickers about the store. Right. Just like, hey, do you want some free comics for your waiting room? And they went around and they made a list, and then I never followed up with that.
Yeah.
Because it's stuff you have to do outside of the store.
Right.
And it's not something that I'm super comfortable of just being like, oh, Andrew, go do this, because he's
Right.
not Challengers,
Right.
He represents Challengers, but
You would want an owner or somebody higher up to do
asking
that.
for
Management.
that.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to reach out to local businesses and be like, hey, do you want to sponsor this podcast for, a block of episodes or whatever?
Sure.
And never for money, but just like,
Goods and services.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The AMC wants to send over some gift cards.
You should talk to the Chipotle on Western and North next time you're there.
Should.
Like we'll specifically just that location.
It's a guy who works there who was shopping with us and then sort of burned us on something and then started shopping with us again.
Oh.
And he mildly burned us, but then he was aware of it and apologized for it and,
that's cool.
and bought the stuff that he burned us on. So it's like, we're good.
Also, we're looking for 2 burrito bowls a month or whatever.
Well, the equivalent there.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't mean that exactly.
2 entrees.
Yeah. A burrito bowl for me and quesadillas for you.
Uh-huh. I don't even need sides. I just see the quesadilla.
But there's other businesses that would be, that would work. Just
Sure.
stuff like whatever. That being said, this episode is brought to you by, I don't have one.
No.
I was going to throw one in there, but I didn't. But yeah, there's literally things I've said in this podcast like, oh, I have an idea for this thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then I've just never done it. And that's on me because I have not done it.
Right.
But I'm busy.
It's true.
Busy being angry about the world.
Mm-hmm.
In my head, I thought about us not doing an episode of this podcast this week.
Why is this the first I'm hearing about
Just
this?
because I don't have to ask you if you want to skip a week. Just because the world is on fire and I didn't know what our headspace is going to be in.
Sure. I mean, if we were recording it Wednesday, to be like, this is not happening.
Yeah.
But, Thursday,
And we are not
World keeps
paid
turning, man.
entertainers,
Mhm.
It's not our job to amuse people or entertain people. But I do think we do that to a minor extent
maybe.
to people that come into the store, or, it's not that we have an obligation to the world to keep going. It's not like
Right.
Owen Hart just fell out of a harness and we still have an
for
entire
example.
pay-per-view to put on. It is
Probably shouldn't have put that pay-per-view on.
Yeah. Oh, of course not.
Maybe a bad analogy.
No, but I mean, like my point was if that had happened, we're not doing this.
Right, of course. Sure.
I don't know if that was clear.
I get it now.
But with the distance of a day,
Superchunk did a whole album about COVID, and it was basically just kind of about the idea, like the City of the Dead is a song where there's a line where it's you talk about all these kind of horrible things and how the world is different and how it's bad, and then the next line is like, but I'll still make the coffee and we'll still make the beds. Kids are scarred but smarter. Like, that's, the world keeps going. It doesn't matter if it's a pandemic or a horrifying election. Like,
I don't know if they're smarter.
kids might be. Young adults are not.
They also said to see the rot with no disguise.
They did a different album about presidencies. It's true.
What a time to be alive.
There was always more than one Reagan youth.
Well, we're at the end of the first wave of Absolute Comic releases.
We are. The third and final of the first wave, Absolute Superman, just released yesterday.
I had nowhere to go with that.
Interesting. I thought you were.
I just
all right.
pulled a thing out of my head.
I guess if we can briefly talk about the business of comic book retail.
Who wants to hear about that?
I remarked to you earlier today that I thought the release schedule of the Absolute books was really good, as it turned out, and not necessarily because of like branding or anything beyond the quality of the books, which is that Absolute Batman released and a skeptical audience turned into a rabid audience. Then they came back 2 weeks later for Absolute Wonder Woman and hopefully were blown away by a book that I think people had even less interest in than the Absolute Batman, with its big bulky Batman with his bat axe. And found out that Absolute Wonder Woman was, to my mind, the best of the three. And then the combination of those two things rolled into a real momentum for Absolute Superman, where people were buying it like it was the favorite comic of the year that they hadn't even read yet. I think that marketing approach, the sales approach, as far as the scheduling goes, is really smart by DC. And I don't know how much of that was planned. I think the idea of going Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman is really smart just on a whiteboard, because it does kind of sandwich the lower selling character between the two traditionally higher selling characters. Not that I want to create an image of a Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman sandwich.
I thought you were more creating an
Read
image
about that
of
on
an
the
American
internet.
society that doesn't value as women as highly as they do men in the same jobs.
I mean, you can read into it all you want. But I think the specific quality of the books, I think, was a surprise in that, again, the Batman stuff really overcame a lot of skepticism, and then that led people into trying out a Wonder Woman book that maybe they would have just passed on out of hand, because it was the next Absolute book. And again, Absolute Wonder Woman, I think, is phenomenal. And we've heard from multiple customers who we kind of pressed it into the hands to, that they loved it, that they outright said, like, they would not have tried it if not for us, and they're super glad they did.
I zoned out for a minute. What about pressed hams?
Mm.
It's not Easter yet, is it?
Steamed hams.
Yeah, and the way that people are buying Absolute Superman, I also think it benefited from basically an extra month of build-up.
Sure.
Because once even if you didn't know the Absolute universe was coming, if you didn't see the Absolute banner in our front window, there's still, once Batman came out, it's like, oh, there's ads for 2 other books in this. So there's more time to get excited for it.
I mean, don't forget all the people watching the AEW Dynamite, finding out about the Absolute Universe. And like,
absolutely.
I gotta go get that. I gotta find out the comic book origin of Darby Allin.
I think all we have left is Timeless Tony Storm. We haven't seen hers yet.
Yeah.
From the people that are in the illustrations.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah, this week's Darby Allin, drawn by Popman.
Okay.
Plays a little bit fast and loose with his origin, how
Just with everybody.
it was Sting who pulled him up and gave him direction to be a wrestler.
His wrestling dad.
But I mean, he became his dad because Darby was already in the company when Sting arrived. Anyway, it's getting, a little bit in the wrestling weeds, which we are known to do regularly.
It's true.
And I had a segue, but I lost it.
Swerve Strickland's promo was just, Lashley, full gear, and like that's it. He said like 3 words.
That's all you need.
No, it's not. I think Swerve Strickland's a better talker than that. I think him coming out and just shouting 3 words at Bobby Lashley and MVP is maybe underselling what Swerve Strickland brings to that company.
I think anybody having to wrestle Bobby Lashley undersells what they bring to the company.
I don't really know him, so my real exposure to him is going to be full gear, and I will try and give him a chance. I know that you're very down on him, and we're disappointed to see that he'd be joining AEW's roster, but I'm going to try and go into this with an open mind, even though you have primed me to be unenthused with his performance.
You're welcome. For every bit as good as Shelton Benjamin is.
Which I think he's good. He's had some good matches so far.
Lashley's the opposite.
Oh, no.
Are you a big Brock Lesnar fan?
Definitely not now.
So,
I never was.
Changing topics entirely. Let's say that the Justice League was like the Legion of Superheroes, where you get to vote on membership or vote on the leader.
Do you mean like the characters or the fan? The fans, you mean? Legion of Superheroes would do both. They would do like the fans would vote, and then that would be the story in the comic. I'm not sure if you mean.
I mean the fans.
Okay, got it.
Who would you, Dal, vote for between, I don't know, Wonder Woman and Lex Luthor?
I mean,
it's not a serious question.
One of the things that I think was interesting about the Legion of Superheroes stuff is how you could kind of tell like spoiler votes, more or less. Not that Spoiler was a character at that point in history, but people who are kind of voting like, shit posting basically, where it was like, what about Polar Boy?
Well,
Why not Polar Boy?
Did that happen with the X-Men Krakoan elections, where the fans got to pick who was on the teams? Like, people would definitely
They voted like one or two characters in it. One character,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. So seeing writers have to deal with that of like, how in the world of these characters does this decision make any sense? Why would all of the Legion of Superheroes vote for this weirdo as the leader just because like a whole bunch of fans from a zine were like, we gotta push for Tenzil Kem to be the Mad Eater lad, to be the leader of the Legion of Superheroes. Not that I'm saying that was a storyline, I'm just saying that was a sort of pick that you would get sometimes where it's like, oh, okay.
And
what?
also, I know 100% that you said Matter Eater Lad for the listener, because you don't need to do it for
I
me.
do not need to do it for you. And that's the tooth.
My God.
Yeah, I always think it's cool when companies do stuff like that, when they kind of integrate the fan experience into the narrative. I'm sure most writers don't love it, especially if you're crafting like a 6 to 12 issue storyline and you have to suddenly deal with, oh, I guess Firestar's on the team now or whatever. But I think watching writers deal with that is kind of cool. Brevoort, in his Substack this past week, had talked about Mark Waid, and he'd mentioned that Mark Waid looks at almost every issue as its own unit, and he doesn't like thinking too far ahead in a storyline. So when you get to a cliffhanger at the end of a Mark Waid comic, understand that when he wrote that, oftentimes he has no idea what the resolution of that cliffhanger is. He likes going into the next issue and trying to figure that out, and using his creativity and his experience to think like, what is a way to solve this within the universe?
Like myself, Mark Waid grew up reading comics in the 80s and was a fan of the DC Challenge, which was a bunch of different writers and artists.
Wasn't he working at DC by then?
I don't think so.
I think he's older than you, man.
Yeah, but I don't think he was at that point.
Okay.
DC Challenge was basically a 12-issue maxi series where each issue was written by a different writer, and each writer did whatever they wanted and had to end the issue on a cliffhanger. They had to start by resolving the cliffhanger from the previous issue, and then progress whatever story they wanted, and then end on a cliffhanger for the next person. And the only rules were, if you were a regular writer of a character who was in that cliffhanger, you have to solve it and get them out of the book.
Right.
So if you wrote Batman regularly and Batman is in a trap,
if you were Jim Starlin and you were writing Batman,
you solve it. This was long before Starlin.
I'm just saying Starlin.
You get Batman out of that and you get him out of the book.
Sure.
Because you can't use your normal toys.
More modern fans of DC Comics, and by modern I mean like 10 years ago, might remember that DC resurrected this concept with the Commandy Challenge.
Yeah.
Where they took a lot of modern creators. In fact, Tom King did an issue. And they tried to work by the same rules. Neither one was a really great 12-issue series because there is no real sense of like...
Marvel did it with a Spider-Man
narrative to it.
One shot.
Again, it was a one shot.
Yeah.
Which I think Hickman did like a chapter on that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes that stuff is fun. I think a one shot is maybe better than a 12-issue series, because with a 12-issue series, you get what's essentially an anthology, where an individual issue might be perfect to your taste, and the next one's like, I don't know who these characters are, and I don't like this tone.
I specifically remember that book because it taught me a valuable lesson about comic reading that actually my brother had to teach to me. Batman was in a situation where a bomb was about to go off. He had like 5 seconds, and this is back when they still did thought balloons in comics, which are such a rarity nowadays.
It's only Al Ewing, apparently.
And Batman was thinking of so many things in his head, and I complained. I'm like, it takes me more than 5 seconds to read all of this. The bomb would have went off. And George had explained that you don't think the way you talk.
Right.
Thoughts come a lot faster.
Yeah. When you're trying to solve a problem in your brain, you're not thinking through every word that you're saying. You're just solving a problem in your brain.
Just goes to show you how young I was when DC Challenge came out.
I thought you said that you read it for the first time last year.
Yeah, but when it came out, I was very young.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
I'm glad your brother was able to walk you through it in 2023.
He's been there to walk me through a lot of things. Not so much in the last month.
Not literally, certainly.
As his knee replacement is healing.
Was he attacked by Christian Cage and the patriarchy?
It's Christian Cage.
Only if you're Nigel McGuinness.
Yeah, I do like that the synergy of...
All I want to do is bring this back around to AEW.
George and Taz undergoing the same surgery at the same time.
He likes orange.
I honestly... Yeah, he does. And the number 13.
Right?
I think that George is healing faster. All things
Do you
considered.
know anything about Taz's recovery?
Yeah, he's been posting photos and stuff online.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he walking a dog?
Can't hold a leash. You can't hold a leash. We got a press release today from Boom Studios. We get these a lot from Boom Studios, like too many.
Yeah, well, for Boom, and this isn't related to what you're saying, but we get the Boom weekly solicitation email, but then we also get it through Diamond,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
which is weird. It's like one or the other, man. I don't need both.
This week, Boom released Something is Killing the Children Zero, which is a story that takes place immediately before the first issue of Something is Killing the Children, which came out about 5 years ago. It's part of their 5-year Slaughterverse celebration.
Okay.
And it's sold out. It's sold out from the publisher right away. Boom is out of it.
Probably not from Challengers, though, if you still need copies.
So they announced today that they are going back to press to do a deluxe edition of 0 and 1 together.
$10.
Wait,
That's what it said in the email. Do you want me to recheck it?
I do.
Okay.
Which email did you read?
I got a Diamond one where it was just that.
Okay. Because the entire reason I brought this up...
I'm sorry, at under $10. So how much? Coming in at under $10, which I assume means $9.99.
The entire reason I brought this up was that Boom frequently has these press releases where they announce new books, new projects, new series, and they don't tell you the price.
Yeah, this is the perfect starting point for new readers as a value-packed issue coming in at, bolded, under $10. But again, there's nothing that says...
Can you angle your phone to me so I can say that?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think that it might be... I meant the email as a whole. Because I was reading the Boom one, and it didn't have the layout of the covers like that either. It did show the Phil Hester cover, and it listed the other covers.
This was at 4:24 p.m.
Huh. So yeah, my point was that they frequently don't tell you how much it costs.
Mm-hmm.
And then
again, it's under $10, which could mean anywhere from
it's $9.99.
one penny to $9.99.
But oftentimes it feels like these press releases are more for fans than they are for retailers.
Sure.
And I know that especially with Boom, I'm on multiple lists.
Okay.
And with Distillery, I'm on multiple lists. I get the fan emails and I get the retailer emails. The fan emails or the press releases and emails, there's too many of them per week. Mm-hmm. You could say that about us as well. But
I don't think there is. I think there's in a normal week
we have less
two. We do two emails and then one for subscribers, which is just your subscription stuff.
And then
that's like getting an order email. I don't count that as part of marketing.
Sure. Because we don't write it separately.
Well, because it doesn't go out to every customer. It goes out specifically to these are things that came in for you. Please come buy them. That's an order email. That's a different thing.
And that goes back to what we were talking about before. When people call and say, "Can you tell me what I have in my box this week?" Why don't you read the email we just sent you?
Mm-hmm. Also, as always, you can always go onto your Managed Comics account at all times, and it'll tell you exactly what's waiting for you. Not just what came in this week, not just what you got an email about yesterday, but everything that's currently waiting for you and how much it all costs. So you can budget appropriately.
And then Oni, who also sends out a lot of press releases, and I mentioned this, I think, last week, they have 5 new projects they're highlighting for 2025. Mm-hmm. And today they sent out a press release about the Chris Condon.
And apparently the guy from... It said Fish Flies, but it's like...
Fish Flies number 6.
Okay, because that was Jeff Lemire.
Specifically, he did something in Fish Flies number 6.
Okay.
It's called, I think, The Goddamn Party.
Okay.
And it's basically him doing a Donner Party comic without being the Donner Party.
Okay.
Which, fine. It's Chris Condon. It's a Western. It's coming out, I think, May? Anyway, they've got 5 projects. They've announced numbers 3, 4, and 5, but 1 and 2 are the ones that come out the first, that come out geographically. Chronologically, like the February and March ones aren't announced yet. Mm-hmm. Why do I need to know what's coming out in April and May?
Very weird.
I'm glad you're excited, and I understand parsing out the information. You're going to have to promote these books over and over and over again.
Yeah, I would say in general there's not much incentive to tell a retailer about it outside of the order window, but I also understand that if you're going to be telling consumers and those consumers come in asking me about it, it would be nice if I know what they're talking about.
Sure.
The number of times where there has been a press conference or something for a book where a creator has launched it in a very like showy way, and then I'm busy at work, so I don't understand when someone comes in asking me to order a book called Die, where I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. The Skybound book, Die, Die, Die? Oh no, the new Kieran Gill and Stephanie Hans book that Image just announced, like directly to fans, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you remember when that same customer who hasn't shopped with us in years now asked us to order the new Image book written and drawn by Jamie McKelvey that never happened?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, fitting that we're talking about this on the week that One for Sorrow came out.
Yes.
Which is a book written and drawn by Jamie McKelvey, but for Distillery. But that sci-fi space drama that McKelvey was working on, they announced it.
What about Jonathan Hickman's Frontier?
Yeah.
Any day now, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's Star Trek, but they're assholes. But they know they're assholes. I'd still read that book.
Yeah.
No, they're too busy doing the $75 hardcover 3 Worlds, 3 Moons first release that you have to get directly through them.
Did they draw comics for that?
Or yeah.
I honestly don't know.
Mike Del Mundo did a bunch of it.
So the original artists were Mike Del Mundo and I think Mike Hawthorne or Huddleston. Huddleston, I think. Not Hawthorne. I don't know. One or the other. But
the one who
all
doesn't
I remember
do Batman.
ever seeing were just like, here's process things. Here's talking about the coinage that world uses, and here's how.
I got a book right there,
and it's just like
first thing on the shelf.
All I wanted were the comic books, and I don't even think that's the comics, man.
No, that's just a manual.
Yeah, I don't.
So, but I mean, this is the
it's
comics.
Not a goddamn role playing game. It's a comic.
It's
book.
called like One, broken into 3 different things, and you can buy the 3 oversized European slipcase graphic novel set.
I'm okay.
Or the $75 hardcover.
I'm all right. Release it as comic books, and I'll probably read it.
I don't know if that's going to happen.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with them doing whatever they think they need to for their business model, and me, as a reader and as a retailer, not caring.
So, speaking of you being very excited about things, I know how much a fan you are of Comixology Originals.
Mm-hmm. Especially their comic book release formats of 2 chapters per issue.
Well, somebody new is going to be
makes me want to put my
publishing
head through a window.
Some of those books, and that's Mad Cave.
Oh, neat.
And one of the first ones they're doing is Mike Carey's new book.
Okay. Mike Carey from Lucifer.
Yeah. Mike Carey has a new Comixology original.
Neat.
And it sounds like it's a pretty fun premise. It's
oh, that's cool. No one will care.
Two sisters.
Let me skip ahead. No one will care.
2 sisters who get this weird inheritance from an uncle that they didn't really know. And when they go to this place, it's like a warehouse full of stuff that they just immediately start selling online because they don't want it. They have nothing to do with it.
Sure.
And they start making a ton of money, but also unleashing some ancient supernatural curses.
Okay.
Can't remember what it's called. I think it has blood in the title.
Okay.
Blood in the title. Also, I wrote down that the title for this episode is going to be In Our Bubble.
Okay.
But we really didn't talk about anything about being in a bubble.
Not really.
And it's conceivable that I only mentioned it so I could still use it.
Oh, okay. Mission accomplished.
Or I call it Blood in the Title.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I figured we were going to talk about how a lot of what happens in the country can also be extrapolated to how we run our business, and like we promote the things that we're interested in that we find out about that are in our bubble. But when you go to different stores around the country, around the world, there's things that they do really well with that we don't even carry.
Sure. I don't know if I would consider that much of a bubble though, because I think
I'm reaching to get
I hear you. I appreciate that, but it's an interesting idea. I think we're all pulling from the same pool of material, even though there's more distributors than ever, and stores can always find local stuff or weirder titles that no one else is keyed into. I think for the major, top 20 publishers, every store is just kind of looking at the same menu and deciding on what they think is going to connect the best with their audience. Like, it's not that we're unaware of companies like Mad Cave or Scout. We just don't care. And we prioritize different things, but there's other stores that are probably making
I
a
wouldn't
killing
say
on those
don't
books.
care. I would say that has
I'll say don't
not
care.
had financial success with most of their titles.
But other stores are probably making a killing on those books while at the same time not even stocking something like FML or, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees or whatever.
So it's gonna segue into this. A couple weeks ago, we got an invoice, a customer invoice from Diamond in our weekly shipment that is not for our store. And Dal thinks it's from a store that we've gotten the invoice from before.
I feel like it definitely is.
don't remember what that store was. I looked it up this time, but I'm not going to say it because we're going to be talking about things that they carry that we don't carry. But a lot of their quantities of some independent books match pretty well with how we do things. It looks like they get their Marvel books from Diamond, but they don't get their Image books from Diamond because all of the Image books on this invoice are onesies.
Yeah.
And we talked about that last time.
And the last time we got somebody's invoice, it was the same thing, and we were both baffled by it because it's like, okay, the Amazing Spider-Man numbers are roughly in line with what we order for Amazing Spider-Man, and yet name any Image book, and they're ordering a single copy of it, and it's like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, especially when you see that they get 25 copies of Thundercats, but then 1 copy of Spawn.
Right.
12 volumes of Something is Killing the Children, volume 8, but then 1 copy of Transformers.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So I think somebody, when we talked about this before, you had said somebody had pointed out that it might have something to do with like an incentive cover thing or something. Because clearly they're getting their DC stuff from Lunar, so they're probably getting their Image stuff from Lunar as well. So the idea of getting like a single copy from Diamond is like, but why?
Oh wow, they already got their Brian Boland, Batman Killing Joke, and other stories.
Hmm?
I mean,
weird.
we got ours, but we just got them now. They had theirs over a week ago based off of this. Interesting. Oh man, did you see the Diamond email?
They shipped out a week early, like all the Boom and Dynamite stuff. Is it that one?
No, it wasn't. It's the opposite. It's like these were all supposed to come out on the 13th. You're not getting them until later.
Oh.
Now, at first, I'm like, oh man, that's everything Boom and Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't. Oh wait, I wouldn't know yet. I wouldn't know if they're on our invoice for next week.
Yeah, we don't know if we're getting them on the 20th.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, you're right. I got it the other way around. International prepack customers will receive these books in regular shipments of product on sale November 20th. But we are neither international nor, I think, prepack.
No. Yeah, there's really nothing to talk about with this.
No, again, I think we delved into it before, and the main thing is just never really getting what felt like a good answer on why in the world would you order 1 copy of Image stuff? Like, you're already getting it from another vendor, clearly.
And based off
what is the value in getting 1 single copy of a Spawn thing from a secondary distributor? It feels like it's more work.
And while we know that there's stores that don't really carry Image books, they carry a bunch of deeper dive indie stuff.
Yeah.
On this, so
Look,
it's not like they would not get
If
Spawn.
you're carrying 25 copies of Thundercats, there's no conceivable way your store can't sell 2 copies of Spawn.
Yeah.
There's no way on this planet. So it's got to be like for a reason. But again, all you're doing is making more work for yourself. You have to unpack 1 additional copy of all of the Image titles for a week from another vendor. Do you know what the most boring and tedious part of unpacking any order from any vendor? Single copy comics.
Yeah.
Checking in 1 stupid cover C of a book is a pain in the ass. You could just as quickly check in 25 copies of Thundercats. So all this is doing is making extra work for you, and I can't
Unless you use a
see the benefit.
point of sale system where you have to scan each book.
I mean, I guess, but like, just checking it in off the invoice, literally taking it out of the box and saying, this is what Diamond shipped me.
I've said that for years.
It's so dumb. So yeah, no one to my mind has ever said, here's why that makes sense. And part of me almost wants to like call this store and say, hey, A, we got your invoice. B, you got to explain this thing to me. What is with the one copy of Transformers? How does that help you? What is the scheme here that I'm not seeing? Because clearly you know what you're doing better than I do. Because you're getting more copies of most books for your customers than I am for mine. So you're clearly the better store. What is the deal with this stuff?
We don't know what their image numbers are.
Do I need to start getting one copy of image stuff from Diamond? I'll start doing it. If you can tell me how it works. I'm not opposed to it. It's easy to do. Ones are easy to put in on the Diamond FOC list, man. They're not hard.
Well, I'd say we can reach out to them, but that's another thing I just wouldn't follow through with.
Yeah. Maybe I'll think about it. I'll think about it maybe. I will not mention that we did a podcast on their invoice 2 times now. I won't say that.
Nor will we say what state they're in.
Mm-hmm.
But we know. Well, for not really being sure if we were going to get an episode done this week at all, I think we just did. Thanks for listening.
Keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. And help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.